Welcome to our Flavour Hunters virtual tasting. My name is Madeline Schmoll and I'm your host for tonight. But during the day, you'll find me looking after our SMWS community on social media. May is festival month, and with it has been a return to in-person festivals around the UK, Europe, and the rest of the world. It's been a delight to see so many of you in person again and to meet new society members just kicking off their Flavour Hunters journey. Tonight's festival celebration, it's a celebration of an outstanding month of whiskey discovery. So make sure you join in, ask questions, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if you have any exciting pairings on the go. But before I introduce my co-host for the evening, let's take a quick look at the running order. So first up, we'll be trying Distillery 5 Lowland Rare Release Lime and Thyme, followed by the Highland Rare Release Hazelnut Bubblegum. Next up, it's Distillery 36 Speyside Rare Release, A Reward for Patience. Then Distillery 93 Campbeltown Rare Release Changes Faster Than a Chameleon, followed by Distillery 53 Islay Rare Release Throw the Cork Away. Due to the limited nature of our whiskies, we're sadly not able to offer you the chance to purchase full bottles tonight, other than the Distillery 53 Islay Rare Release, which is still available in the UK. However, we've expertly selected some fantastic bottles, and we'll follow up with an email shortly at the end of this tasting, and you can take a look there. If you're tuning in after the fact, welcome. We're delighted to have you with us. Feel free to jump in the comments. We'll be checking back, and we would love to hear what you would think. This is the point to make sure that you have your tasting mat ready, your glasses ready to go, your drams poured. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to your first ambassador this evening, and that's Bob Wenting joining us from Benelux. Hey, Bob, how are you?
Hello, Madeline. I'm good. I'm really good. All set up, tasting mat,
ready to go.
Glasses, whiskey. It's all here.
The important things.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this. It's been a great month. Let's celebrate it.
And you're joining us from the Netherlands. I said Benelux, but it is the Netherlands.
which is part of the Benelux.
It's
so
part of Benelux.
You were actually correct.
And I'd also like to introduce John McCheyne, our Master Brand Ambassador. Hey, John, how are you?
Hi, Mads. Hi, Bob.
And where are you joining us from tonight, John?
And I'm actually on Islay, I am pleased to say, here for the Flavour Festival. We're having a great time here. We've even got Islay time. Can anybody see that watch?
Oh, we can see it, yeah. It's got the volts on it, I think.
Yeah, when I show people that, it makes them very jealous. I think there's only 2 or 3 of those in the world.
Excellent. Well,
good stuff. I'm jealous. I'm jealous. Anyway, John, you're on Islay.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there a better place to be than in Islay in this time of the year?
I know. Isn't it great to see the people from all over Europe joining us? Europe and the home countries too. Fantastic. And so many names there of people that we know quite well in the society.
We've got Anne and
Yes, Anne Bingham. Hi, Anne.
Stephen Fisher.
Yeah.
Gerben Blocker.
Hi, Gerben.
And
Peter. Hi, Peter. Great to see you.
Great. Well, before we kick things off, John, how have things been on Islay? How's the weather been? Has it been good? Has it been okay?
I'll tell you what, the weather's been changeable. What was really strange today was I was over here. We're at a house just behind Bruichladdich Distillery. And some of my colleagues who are here with me went over to Lafroig today. And we had a lovely day here. Sunny weather, bit of a breeze, but nice, a lovely day. They come back from Lafroig and said the weather over on the other side of the island was horrible. It was raining and cold. I mean, we could almost see Lafroig from here. But the difference in the weather is remarkable. I've never known that before. But it's been nice here. It's been nice. It was quite cold on Friday when we were at Islay House, Mads, but it seemed to warm up over the weekend a little bit.
Indeed. It has. And nothing to warm us up a wee bit if it is a little bit cold where you are tonight, like a whiskey. And
yes,
I think with
absolutely.
that, we'll kick off with the first one. Just to lead with the format of the evening, we have some friendly faces from the society around the world. So we'll start with those videos. And first up, we have Matthias Rech from SMWS Germany introducing the Lowland Dram. So here we go.
Hello, many greetings from Berlin. This is Matthias from SMWS Germany. Today I have the honor and the pleasure to present present you this wonderful lowland whiskey. It's a rare release from Distillery number 5, and it's called Lime and Thyme. When I represent the society at whiskey festivals in Germany, in my experience, many whiskey fans tend to shy away a little bit from whiskies from the lowlands. And this is because they think that they are less interesting or less expressive than single malts from other regions. Well, I can confirm that this whiskey definitely has a lot of character and a lot of personality. Over the last month, the Society released a couple of older expressions from Distillery number 5. And I have to say I really fell in love with this distillery because for me, especially the older ones, they combine a subtle, elegant complexity with a surprising freshness for their age. And I hope that you will enjoy this whiskey as much as I do right now. Slange and greetings from Berlin.
Sandra.
Thank you, Matthias. Yes, very nice. I actually grew up about 3 miles away from this distillery, you know, so it's got a bit of a special place in my heart. It's in the lowlands, certainly, but it's only 6 or 7 miles away from another distillery which is in the Highlands, you know. So this drammy here, one of our rare releases from the lowlands, it's called Lime and Thyme, as Matthias said. So let's see what we think. I think on the nose, I think it's very. I think it reminds me of mint, coconut, and a bit of orange liqueur. But it's as Matthias said, it's very fresh, and on the palate, it kind of explodes, doesn't it, with fruity flavors, and it has a really nice, spicy caramel kick at the back, I think.
I think there's a fair bit of well, one of the things that came out of our open day at Islay House was we had a lot of people trying this dram for the first time, and everyone kind of said they really got that time, that kind of sun warmed time in the garden, and I didn't get it that day, but I'm certainly getting it now.
That's great, man. It's very interesting to hear what people think about, you know, the exercise we did with these releases to try and stir memories in people. And it'd be lovely to hear what if people actually are reminded of anything particular from some of these flavors, because we know in whiskey that because of your olfactory bulb and your brain being close to your emotions and your memories, often a flavor or a memory that you get is a very personal thing to you. Wonderful thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nadja and Jens in Frankfurt, good to see you.
See lots of Dutch people as well. Laurens van Rijn, for instance. Hi, Laurens. Good to see you. This whiskey for me triggers the memory of the first time I ate marmalade. As in, marmalade is not such a big thing here in continental Europe, especially not in the Netherlands. You do get fruit jams, but these are predominantly sweet. And the first time I smelled marmalade, I was really, really enthusiastic, as in it smelled like oranges and like citrus and that sort of thing. And when I tasted it, I was expecting sweetness all over. And then there was this bitterness coming over it as well. So when I smell this whiskey, I also taste a little bit of bitterness, which isn't really there actually, which is fun.
Yeah, sure. I think I don't know how people feel. They can let us know. I looked forward to this with a little bit of water in it, and I think a little touch of water brings through more of the fruitiness about it, with a little bit of a kind of spicy peanuts in there too. So sometimes you get a dram and you think, I don't think this needs water, and other times you do, and I think this one benefits from a little bit of water for sure.
I'm going to add a wee bit of water just now and try it. But we have some excellent tasting notes coming through.
Sure.
And certainly, apparently this would pair well with a Thai green curry, kaffir lime and chili. I do get a kind of savouriness to it.
Absolutely, Steve. That's good. Yeah. I mean, it's 18 years old. As we all know, this this distillery is one of the few distilleries in Scotland that triple distills all of its spirit, and then it's on bourbon cask for 18 years. So you'd expect that freshness from the new make spirit married to that sweetness that the bourbon cask will have given it. And I think that's exactly what we're getting here.
Yeah, absolutely. Marco Coletta, I hope I pronounce your name correctly. You say there's some pepperiness in there as well, and I get it as well. It's both on the nose and on the taste, actually, for me.
Yeah. I think that's for sure. I think the pepperiness is a little bit reduced with the water, but certainly it was there big time. I think with when you drunk it neat.
And it's also, for me, it's which it's funny. I get it on the nose, but I also get it on the finish. It stays a bit behind in the back of the throat, almost like sometimes Taliskers can do.
Sure. Yes.
Which is a bit strange for this whiskey. I don't think I've ever had that with this distillery before.
That's right, and I think it's just such a great thing our spirits team are doing with these special releases, where they're really working with the spirit and the cask to create a particular flavour profile, as they've done with this one, you know.
I definitely get a lot more savoury notes with the water added. I think I want to say it's almost like spiced onions or like a mango chutney.
Okay.
Even it really becomes super savoury with water for me.
Yeah. But I think that for me, Mads, that merges with the fruit, though. I think it's a fruity overlay to all of that as well.
Definitely.
Much more approachable. Yeah, I agree. Gavin. It is a bit. Also, because it's probably the first whiskey you drink this evening, it is cask strength. It has got a bit of pepperiness over it, and the sharpness of the whiskey might be a bit exaggerated through that. But
okay, yeah.
It's
sometimes think it's quite amusing when you're doing a whiskey tasting, and in the first whiskey you're talking about specific aromas and flavors. By the fifth whiskey, you're imagining you're on a Argyll hillside overlooking Loch Long on a sunny spring day. That's the magic of the spirit we're drinking now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, and I think for anyone tuning in who's new to the society, don't feel that you need to drink all your drams, all of this first dram in one go. Let it sit in the glass, come back to it at the end of the night. I actually have split my samples in half so that I can enjoy some of them at a later date. It also means if you're adding water to it, you have another opportunity in case you maybe go a little bit too heavy with water.
Yeah.
So,
no, I agree, Nadja. I think it's Oh no, you usually get better without the water. Okay, no, I thought it was better with the water, Nadja. Yeah,
and it's a good point. Just leave a bit of the whiskey in the glass, because there's a couple of things going on. The whiskey will actually develop during the time that we're doing this tasting. If I'm drinking a whiskey, and especially the older ones, I will usually just get myself a glass, and most of the time I even drink only one glass for an evening, and just leave it and let it develop and let it go wild, basically.
What sometimes I do, Bob, is sometimes I pour 2 glasses of the same whiskey and just push one away whilst I'm enjoying the first one. And sometimes you go back to the second one and you're getting a lot more from it than you did from the first one,
True.
But certainly it's almost fascinating to go back to whiskies after, as Mads and Bob were saying, leave them in the glass and go back to them later. And after you've tasted a few other whiskies, you might find something completely different.
Yeah, it's actually adapts to certain flavors that are predominant in basically all whiskeys.
Sure.
So they get cancelled out when you go back to previous whiskeys, and you pick up other things, which is a wonderful thing to do.
Especially if you're getting in on any pairings, if you have like a beer pairing, or even some snacks to kind of while you're tasting, all of those things will kind of change your environment. And we didn't suggest pairings tonight, but if you do have a beer pairing, or if you have something that you think works particularly well with the dram, let us know.
Well, remember, if you're having a beer, let me remind you of a comment that a man called Compton Mackenzie made. Compton Mackenzie was the author of the book Whiskey Galore, which became a film. And Compton Mackenzie said, "A beer does not taste like itself unless it's chasing a dram of neat whiskey down your gullet, preferably 2 drams."
Ah, well, sounds good to me.
Nadja, you don't have to be sorry. We know each other well enough. We're just a slight disagreement on that one.
I don't think I understand all of it, but it sounds like good advice.
And we talked, I mean, John, you spoke a bit about kind of what Ewan has done with these whiskies, what the spirits team have done with these whiskies. So one of the things that he said, if you've kind of read his notes in the outturn, is that it's triple distilled, narrow cut points, and matured in quite an active bourbon wood to bring this classic sweet, fruity, and mellow flavor profile. And this is the only sweet, fruity, and mellow we have tonight. So enjoy it and enjoy the flavors that come with it. I don't know, John or Bob, if you have anything to add about the specific flavor profile.
I don't think so. I think there's a lot of the comments have been absolutely great, you know. And there's Tom Spindler said that used to be called a half and a half. Absolutely right, Tom. A half and a half. In Glasgow, we say a hoff and a hoff. Okay.
Indeed.
It's one of these flavor profiles which is not really sticking out above all of the others, but behind these banners there are actually a couple of bottles, and if I would pull these away, there's lots and lots of this color around. I can promise you that. It's one of these things that is somehow I tend to buy them every once in a while.
Yeah. I think it's quite a good summer dram. And as we're heading into summer, it's a good opportunity. And also they can be so different. You can get, as you've seen with this dram, you can get savory notes, you can get sweeter notes, and you can get, things that are just completely different from one distillery to the next, or even one cask type to the next. And that's kind of the beauty of the society.
Right. And I always think, Mads, it's fascinating that when people read there's 2 ways to approach a whiskey from the Scotch Malt Whisky Society folks. You can read the tasting note first, in which case all you'll be trying to do is identify some of the flavours and aromas you've just read about. The more fun way to do it is to just taste the whiskey first and see what you get. Everybody's different. And then look at the tasting notes. No one person will ever get all of those tasting notes that we produce, because that's the panel that have done that. Different people with different palates and different views. So no one person will get all of that.
And if you're curious about the tasting notes, you will find them on these little cards in the red envelope in your tasting pack. It's got all the tasting notes for each dram. Sure. So you can do as John says, and you can surprise yourself, or you can read them if you're trying to figure out something difficult you can't quite put your finger on.
That's right. And that's a good point, Mads, because some people are quite quick to think of what they're actually experiencing. Some people are slower. I tend to be a bit slower. So if you're trying to identify what it is you're experiencing, look at the website, and we have against each flavor profile some typical flavors that might come from those. So you might be able to, that might help you to identify what it is you're experiencing and educate your palate as you go along.
Yeah. And don't be shy. Don't be shy. There's no such thing as a bad tasting note.
No.
If you are smelling dog food in this one, you are smelling dog food in this one. I won't contest you, because it's your experience, and remember for yourself that that's very valuable. So don't let anyone ever tell you that the tasting note is wrong.
That's right.
And if you are. And if you are looking at different pairings, if you do want to try different foods, one of the best ways to do that is to just buy a whole bunch of snacks, put them on the table, pour yourself some drams, and then try different things, and you'll be surprised at what comes out of the whiskey. You may have something like white chocolate that tastes terrible with one whiskey, and you try it with the next one, and it's a magical combination. It also works really well for getting your memory going and kind of building those connections when you try more whiskies after that.
And Mads, it's absolutely true. We have been at events where people have come to us and said, I don't like whiskey. And we've asked them to go and get a certain type of snack or food and come back and then try whiskey. And it's like that their mind just opens up and said, my goodness, I did not expect to enjoy whiskey like that. Whiskey and cheese, someone is saying, yeah.
Yeah, I believe we had Eric who tried it with an intense brie. I think that would work really well with a Stram.
Yeah,
So,
I think so.
Yeah.
I imagine brie and for instance, fruit jam that works very well as well. So yeah, good suggestion, I think.
Absolutely.
Yummy.
How are we feeling? Are we about ready to move on to the next one?
Yeah, why not?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Great. Well, I've got a wee video of someone who's going to introduce this Stram, and it is Matt Bailey from Australia. So hand it over to Matt.
Hello everyone, hello John, hello Mads, hello Bob, and hello to all of our UK EU members. It's Matt here from the Australia branch of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, about as far away as it gets from where you are right now. But I hope you're enjoying your festival experience. It's festival month for this SMWS, and we've been hosting festival tastings around the country in Australia for the last couple of weeks now, and we've got, I think, 2 more to go and 2 more releases to go this month, which is great. But I was really excited when Mads reached out and said, can you talk a bit about Distillery 19 rare release, Hazelnut Bubblegum? It's actually really glad that she asked that, because this is actually my favourite of all the 6 releases. I'm a huge sucker for a spicy and dry flavour profile, especially one with a bit of age on it. And I think what Ewan Campbell and the team have created with this release is one of the most exciting festival releases we've seen in years. It kind of reminds me, the aromas on this whiskey straight away remind me of... it's like a childhood sort of like biscuity sort of treat, like milk arrowroot for those who know Australian biscuits, or even like a bit of iced Vovo. So it's kind of like a sweet biscuit, but also a bit savoury. And that's what I kind of like, the spicy and dries, and that's why I really love Distillery 19 rare release. It's also really good because we don't see too many Distillery 19s. We haven't seen too many through the society, and 1,128 bottles sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. So to go around members around the world and to enjoy this whiskey, there's a smidge left in this bottle from last night's tasting with the Melbourne tasting of the festivals. So Hazelnut Bubblegum, it's all nutty, sweet biscuits and savoury sort of snacks. It's like a picnic in a park kind of dram. I encourage you to, if you do get a bottle of this or you already have one, I don't know when this is coming out in the UK, I encourage you to open this up, take this to a picnic in the park on a Sunday, on one of those rare days that you get over 20 degrees in the UK, of course. I will see you all again soon. Reporting out from the Australia branch, I hope to see you all in person back in the UK soon, or, of course, at one of our Australian virtuals or Australian events. Cheers, bye.
Wow, great stuff.
Very good introduction, I would say.
Yeah, well, that's me preparing tasting notes. Thank you, Matt. No, I actually didn't prepare tasting notes for this one. I read them, but I didn't. I actually have a bottle of this. I was lucky enough to buy one of these. So I'm going to open it and listen to the great sound of a bottle opening.
Best sound in the world.
Which always sounds just a tiny little bit better than cracking open these little bottles. So sorry if I'm making anyone jealous, but no, sorry, it's what it is. I'm gonna pour them in dram. Here we go. And well, let's go look for nice tasting notes. So okay, the first thing I get is actually biscuits and fruit. That's probably not. Matt told us that he was tasting that, that he was smelling that, but that's what I'm getting as well. And it reminds me of oh dear. Here we go. It's a brand of cookie as well, Liga. The fruit Liga so this is Dutch, and probably some people in Germany know it as well. Most probably Belgium as well. So it's this biscuit. It's a very thick biscuit with this layer of I always think it's artificial fruit on it, but it really smells like that for me. It's the sort of stuff that you would that your mom would give you when you went up to school with your bread basket. As a lunchtime cookie. And funnily enough, these days, I notice my kids aren't allowed to bring any sweets anymore here in the Netherlands, which is stupid, I think. But
I think my time in Scotland is rubbing off on me a bit. I'm getting kind of Cranachan, that kind of toasted
Cranachan.
porridge,
Yeah.
and
It
whipped
has
cream and some fruits. Yeah,
creaminess. Yeah,
yeah.
I do agree.
Well, I actually thought it was quite an oily dram actually on the palate, and I was getting heather and pine nuts, strangely, which is kind
Okay.
of against what you've been saying, and some banana in there as well, and a bit peppery.
Crisp green apples just came by.
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
So there's sometimes apples can almost smell like pine. So there's a bit of a connection there.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, Bob, because sometimes two people are getting the same kind of thing, but just saying the words differently, because everybody's slightly different. It was great to see Matt in such good form, though, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He was actually here. I did a tasting with him in Campbeltown, a virtual 3 years ago, and then after that, Matt and Mads came over to Islay, but I couldn't come to Islay that year. I had to go somewhere else, But it was a great experience. That's the first time I met him, and I'm actually going out to the Australian branch in August. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Well,
Lucky
you'll have
you.
to bring us back some of those biscuits, John, because I think we all want to know what they taste like now.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's funny. A couple of weeks ago, we had a gathering of brand ambassadors and some other people from around the world doing some stuff for SMWS in Edinburgh. And Matt was actually there, and it was great fun to meet him. It's a strange thing, as in the last 2 years, I've met an awful lot of people on screen, and that was really funny because those were mostly people that I was more or less expecting to be meeting live quite soon. And then there was Matt from the other side of the world, which I more or less not expected to meet so soon in real person. And it was great. It was great meeting everyone again, but especially people like Matt. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's the great thing about the society. I mean, it's meeting members and also meeting our ambassadors when you kind of have been working together remotely to deliver things like tastings. Meeting in person is great. Everyone kind of says, oh, it's about members coming together, but we're members as well. And when we get to come together and talk and share learnings, it means even more exciting things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's been a delight, and it's been great actually going back to in-person festivals as well, and just getting to say hello, getting to meet new members, getting to meet old members. It's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it took to be honest, it took some getting used to for me to be around people up close and personal again. But it only took me about 2 seconds. So it's wonderful to be able to do that again.
We've got Gav who's added some water. Has anyone else added water?
Not yet.
Not yet.
But I will do just now.
Sorry, Bob, I cut you off a wee bit there. What were you saying?
Sorry, not yet. Not any water yet, but I will. I've just added some. So.
We're getting some.
I think water. I thought it was oily at first, but it's definitely got a lot creamy in now.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting a bit of a sort of bit of lemon meringue pie in there, and a bit biscuity as well. You were all getting the biscuity thing neat. I'm starting to get it now with water.
Yeah, it now smells a bit like fruit yogurt for me.
Yeah, okay.
Fruity vanilla ice cream.
There's definitely something spicy there, though. I added a bit of water, and all of a sudden it kind of feels like oomph.
Peaches on syrup.
I definitely get that kind of spicy chili flavor with the water. It's certainly that it seems to accentuate that at the back.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Nutmeg, perhaps.
That's funny. It was less spicy without water for me as well.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Dried mango and cream. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good.
That's it. Absolutely spot on.
Absolutely, Elizabeth. Yeah.
And the tasting note does make reference to that kind of oily distillate. I won't say more because I know some folk are going to read those tasting notes later, but
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
there. It's in the tasting.
Yeah. And of course, this is a Highland malt, yeah? And there's a saying in Scotland, folks, that an optimist sees a glass as half full. A pessimist sees a glass as half empty. A Highlander just sees there's room in the glass for more.
An empty glass is just a glass waiting to be filled up.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah.
This is great.
So I'm really curious if anyone at home has any nice memories coming through, because again, for me, this was taking me back to, well, I think kindergarten. it's way back that I did.
I wish I'd went to you. Well, kindergarten. My goodness.
Yeah, I wasn't drinking whiskey then yet, but
no. Yeah.
I was eating Liga cookies. So
okay. In Scotland,
sorry.
No, in Scotland we don't start drinking whiskey until we're 7.
I was going to say Vanessa had and said she had a note of Butterkist popcorn, and actually with that thought, it kind of, in terms of childhood, it reminds me, and this is not everyone's taste, but in America where I grew up, when you go to the movie theaters, they at least used to have these like dispensers of fake butter, and you put it on your salted popcorn, because salted popcorn is the only way of life in America. We don't have sweet popcorn. It's not a thing. And so you get your popcorn from the concession stand and you take it over, and then you put as much of this artificial butter on it as you like. And this took me straight back there. It's really not healthy for you, but it's delicious. And yeah, that's childhood when it was a lot cheaper to go to the movies than it is now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Mashed banana on burnt toast.
Yeah, Anne said that it reminds her of being in a sweetie shop. Yeah, I can get that too. And the Butterkist popcorn, yeah.
Farley's rusks.
Farley's rusks, yeah.
Bob, it's you give them to toddlers you give them to babies when they're teething.
Okay.
I don't know what they're called. I guess it would be like the German equivalent would be like Zwieback or something like that. Possibly, although it's not quite the same, has to be said.
I'll have to look that up later on, right?
I think someone else said Sweetie Van, though. I'm going to just scroll up and see.
That was Anne. Oh, no, she had a sweetie shop. Yeah.
Chris Anderson, pick and mix I used to get from the local ice cream van. Chewy sweets and fudge.
Okay.
And Boris Dam, indeed, you did get Liga biscuits in kindergarten as well. Good. It's a bit of a German and Dutch thing, I think. But
well, it's good to see biscuits mentioned and not Tunnock's caramel wafers. That's what we used to get.
I'm sure there'll be a dram later, John.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think if anyone has been to any of the events in the UK, in London, John, you were there in London, so you saw our memory boxes firsthand.
Oh yeah.
And it was a very much a scientific experience, because we worked with a thrillologist, which is quite difficult to say, which is someone who designs roller coasters for kind of maximum, I guess, adrenaline. And we also we worked with a whole team. So we worked with a chef, Bruce Klein Watson, and Ansgar Endres, psychologist, just to learn a bit more about memory and taste and experience and how all of this was linked. So it was quite a fun one, if you were in London or if you were at the Whiskey Festival in Glasgow, to experience this and try different tastes of things that may have reminded you of things from your childhood. So it's things like tea at Nan's house, or dramming in a caravan. So things like that, just memories that kind of exist in your mind, maybe aren't connected to a food or a whiskey, but when you try them, it really brings that moment back.
That's right, Mads. And I think it's someone said that all of those memories that we have can be almost dragged out, by the aromas and flavors connected with whiskey. And someone also said that, when as we go through a day and we're experiencing aromas as we walk around, and it gets committed to your short-term memory, just by thinking about where you are, who you're with, and what the moment is, you can actually get it into your long-term memory. And sometimes a whiskey can bring that back out again. It's just a fascinating science. We were at the Islay House yesterday, Mads. There was a girl there who was Master Chef winner a few years ago, right? And she's contacted me and she wants to look at doing food and pairing tastings with us because that'd be wonderful, wouldn't it? It's always great to do that kind of thing because we do it already with people like Jamie Oliver and stuff, but it'll be nice to do, someone who's was a Master Chef winner a few years ago.
Yes, no, yeah, she was in touch to say that she was on Islay, and unfortunately, it was after I left. I was gutted.
All right, okay.
But she has a wee SMWS bottle waiting for her when she gets back home.
All
so.
right, okay.
Good stuff.
But Gerben actually had a great wee tasting note there, which Bob might be familiar with. Bob, I'm not entirely sure.
What do you think? Bananas, banana, and it's these foam bananas.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you have them in the UK as well.
Well, yeah, we get the banana and the shrimps together. You get them in
Yeah.
the same packet. Is it
Yeah.
is it the same for you?
Yeah, it's the same. No. It's only the bananas, but they taste the same. It's this really almost exaggerated banana flavor coming from it, and I do agree with Gavin. It's as long it develops a bit this whiskey, and it goes towards those sweets for me as well. I just was going back to the first one now, and what I get now is if you are sawing a piece of wood and the saw gets too hot, it's a bit sawdust and wood smoke coming through for me.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
No, kind of like a Saturday afternoon in a workshop or something like that.
Yeah. Funny. Actually, it's more the woody parts of the time, I think. Nice.
Bern says he's learning more about children's sweets and candies today than about whiskey. Sorry, Bern.
Well,
There you go.
I think that's a thing. A lot of memories go back to your childhood, so
Yeah,
it's one of these
absolutely.
things. But I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking at the color of this next whiskey, and
I know.
I'm keen to get started on it. So I think we'll have Freddie, who's our ambassador from China, introduce that one just now.
Hi everyone, I'm Freddie, the brand ambassador of SMWS China. First of all, I would like to thank John McCheyne, Bob Wenting, and Matt Schmoll for their kind invitation. It gives me great honor to join you here at the visual tasting. As we can see, SMWS today means so much more than a club that provides a wide selection of brilliant whiskies to over 30,000 members. It also offers exciting gathering and inspires us to communicate and share our experience with our members. Today, I would like to share you a Speyside Batch 2022, a fine drawing from the Distillery 36. Quite unlike my first encounter with the whiskey from this distillery, which left me with an impression of calmness and monotony. A reward of patience struck me as something refreshingly different as I tried before, bring over with vigor and strength, just as the description shows. A sweet and citric note of tropical fruits runs through its nose and taste, accompanied by sweetness of various baked cake and desserts. Small batch may have taken some of its original character, but at the same time give it more harmony and consistency as a whole. I believe such changes are a shining example of what the game changer stands for. Lastly, I want to say that just as the name, a reward of patience. indicates this year's festival release is like an annual gift for our Chinese members. Let's wait for the many present surprise it holds in store for us. Thank you all again. Enjoying this moment. Slangeva.
Slancha Freddy.
Thanks, Freddie.
Lunch.
I was actually asked by Freddie just the other day there if I could join in a virtual tasting with him on Saturday, but I'm just trying to work out whether it's possible because I'm supposed to be driving back to England, so I'm going to be on the road most of the day, you know. But yeah, good lad.
Now look at the color of this.
I know.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Well, folks, this one is bourbon and Oloroso casks combined, and it's 125 litre Oloroso cask. So there's really quite an intense flavour experience there from these small casks, and then back into bourbon. And look at the colour. I mean, as you were saying, it's just wonderful, you know. And I just think that from this one, I mean, sherry trifle immediately, you know. And red wine is the first thing I got when I put my nose in the glass. Some toffee and orange marmalade. So a lot of kind of very kind of fruity, creamy sort of flavours there. Yeah. It's just I mean, it's one of those drams which you actually could sit there and sniff all night long. You know, it's a great aroma coming from it.
Yeah, I do absolutely agree. Things like wine gums coming through as well. Wine combined with sweetness.
Yeah.
And here I am standing, always telling people that you shouldn't judge a whiskey by its color, but it's hard to not do that.
Well, at least in society, we know that our colour is always completely natural and genuine, you know. So it's always interesting to have a look at the colour. The other thing I always like to mention is the distillation date, because I think that sometimes that just means something in somebody's life. And I've had a couple of bottles which the distillation date was very special. So I've had, this is 4th of May 2011.
And we've got a good comment from Peter here. He says, "Not for me," and I just want to pick up on that one because it's okay if you don't like this whiskey. Yeah. It's okay if you don't like any of the whiskeys. We hope you do, but taste is a very individual thing. And at the Society, we have 12 different flavor profiles for exactly that reason. So you can find a flavor you enjoy, and then maybe after that branch into the next flavor and into the next one. And before you know it, you're probably back at that flavor profile where initially you were like, no, not for me. So things change over time. Tastes change.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. On top of that, taste is very personal. 2 weeks ago, I had a tasting at Hotel Vidder in Zwolle. We also tasted a couple of these festival bottlings, and there was there was the other one in there as well, and the people who didn't like it were actually very loud, very adamant. They didn't like it, and actually I didn't like it as much as well. But I kept my mouth shut about it, and after about a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, when everybody was done tasting, I asked the group actually who didn't like this whiskey, and about half of them didn't like it, but that also meant that the other half, who weren't as outspoken about it, actually really liked the dram. So, yeah, it's very personal.
Well, Peter, if you don't like it, we'll need to have a chat next time we're in London, and we'll compare a few different whiskies and see what you like and what I like. And I like Anne's comment. You see, you're not getting the sweetness of the toffee, but so I think apart from the sweetness of the toffee, there's a little astringency there as well, which I think comes from the Oloroso casks, you know. So there's a lasting kind of almost slightly bitterness in it at the back, which is something I like, but I know a lot of people who don't like that, you know.
I think, cream soda. Tasting, cream soda. I was going to say the tasting notes, we're getting lots of different tasting notes here. So things like nutmeg and cloves, strawberry mint bubblegum, sticky malt loaf. Gary says get an overload of bananas. Definitely.
I must say, Distillery 36 is one of these distilleries which has grown on me. I didn't like it all that much a couple of years ago, but the last couple of years, especially our bottlings, and that's not because we bottled them, but the stuff has grown on me. It's also usually this really thick spirit that somehow takes up flavors from the cask really good, and it's got lots of character from the spirit itself, and it somehow really counteracts heavy maturation.
Sure.
In a very, very nice way.
Yeah.
We've got a wee question here from Gav. Does that bitterness come from the quarter cask and the ratio of spirit to wood, or is it tannins?
I think it's slightly tannin. It's a bit of tannins in there, you know. Yeah. And also with the quarter cask, you're right, absolutely right about the quarter cask and the ratio of spirit to wood. So we're going to get more of that slight astringency because of that, you know. And then we put it back into bourbon to try and let it marry and smooth out. But the reason that we put it in the Oloroso was to get that additional layer of slightly bitter flavours that I think we've managed to produce here alongside the sweetness.
Which go really well together, as far as I'm concerned. This was one of the bottles that actually at the tasting in Zwolle was very, very well received.
Yeah, it was on Friday as well, Mads, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was very popular.
Yeah.
Fruitcake, syrupy, touch of nutmeg, perhaps. Okay. It has got this woody character, a bit of woody influence to it, and again also in the taste as well. The tannins I think spot on, as in it's got this astringency, a bit of dryness to it as well.
Yes. Absolutely.
Which isn't overpowering, which is a good thing as far as I'm concerned.
Well, sometimes, Bob, you can get too much of that in the whiskey, but I think this is a nice balance, and I love that kind of slight bitterness at the back, because I just think it makes for a long-lasting kind of finish.
Actually, I think that's one of the virtues of having small batch releases as well. It gives our spirits team the opportunity to play around a bit with these kind of things.
Yes,
absolutely. Find the right balance between sweetness, astringency, things like tannins and lusciousness of a whiskey. So and as far as I'm concerned, they're spot on with this one. It's really good.
I think you're right, Bob. I mean, you think about the society is going to be 40 next year. That's going to be a very special year, folks. By the way, watch out for lots of stuff. But in that 40 years, it's incredible how we have developed the whole pursuit of flavour in different ways. I mean, we're still mostly about single cask, single malt Scotch, but we've done so much more now, you know. And we'll keep on doing that. We'll keep innovating and trying different things, you know.
Well, we've got 2 comments here about adding water. I've added water, and I actually slightly prefer it with water. Simon says it's a bit drier, and Hud says it's super smooth. I'm getting more of the smoothness. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, me too. I just added water. The fruitiness comes through a bit more on the nose, and it's far smoother on the palate. As in, somehow the dryness has been taken away a bit by the water, I think.
We're all different. Just shows taste is very different between all of us.
Which is fun.
I think I would agree with that, Bob. I think the slight bitterness is reduced with the water, you know. I think the fruity, the malted loaf aspects to it as well come through strikingly. So I think that, I suppose you could put it this way. I think with the water, I think the Oloroso effect comes through more clearly than it does without the water.
I think there's a Kelmac ferry floating through a signal. We still see you, John, but you're a bit fake.
All right. Okay.
We can still hear you, though. We can hear you fine.
All right. Okay.
That's good.
Oh, we've got a great comment here from Dorothy. My tastes have changed enormously over time. In my 30s, I thought Islay malts amazing, but now in my 70s, I find Highland malts much more agreeable.
Oh yeah, that happens to a lot of people who I speak to, and me myself as well. When I first tasted an Islay whiskey, so this is way back. Actually, I was working in a hotel, and my boss was really into whiskeys and also really into Islay whiskeys, and he served me a dram of Lagavulin 16-year-old. That was my first Islay whiskey. I hated it. I really hated it. While I was actually enjoying whiskeys by then. And then somehow the Islay peatiness grew on me the next couple of years. And then I started to discover the fruity stuff. And then I went back to peaty stuff. And you develop. And that's nice as well.
I think it's not always just about your palate. I think sometimes it can be about a situation, a memory, a place, a person. My first ever distillery visit was Laphroaig, way back in 1983. That was before festivals, before visitor centres and all of that. And we were taken around by a guy there and treated really well. And I remembered that, and I've always loved Laphroaig ever since, because it was such a wonderful experience, So I've always loved Laphroaig and peaty whiskies as a result,
I think as well, there's something to be said for, if you are reading over what a flavor profile is or what's involved in that flavor profile. Certainly for me, and I know I've told this on a virtual tasting before, so for those of you that have heard it, please bear with me. But on paper, when I joined the society, I thought deep, rich and dried fruits, that's it. Like, those are the things that I enjoy, Christmas spice, all of that. Yeah, that's what I want in a whiskey. And then I kind of had my first deep, rich and dried fruits jam, and I was like, oh, that's not for me. And I absolutely didn't enjoy peat when I started a society either. So for me, it was, I just literally tried every flavor profile that I could when it was offered, and kind of found my way, and then came back to deep, rich and dried fruits. And now it's probably still not my favorite, but I enjoy it. It just took some time to get there. So if you see something on the flavor profiles that you think works and then you try it, it doesn't quite work, that's not necessarily going to be the case forever.
But don't you think, Mads, that sometimes a flavor profile that you don't normally like as much can be the right one on a particular evening, a particular moment, I had a 121 last year, and I'd already drank a third of the bottle, and I poured myself one evening, and I was sitting there, I was listening to music, and I thought, my God, this is wonderful. This is the best dram I've had this year. Why didn't I think that when I was drinking the first third? All of a sudden, just that moment, that day, that whiskey was the right one for me. And that's I think it's fascinating.
It's very much, it's again linked to memory, and it is very much a situational thing. It's your company, or if you're, if you are listening to music, you could be listening to music with a group of friends or music on your own. But I guarantee you listen to the same song and have the same dram, one with friends and one on your own, you will have two very different experiences.
Absolutely.
So that's another good thing to try on your whiskey journey. If you've tried the snacks thing, try the music one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Pete's saying it all comes down to the moment, doesn't it? And yes,
yeah.
It does.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Mood, situation, place.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah. And that's partially why we did this memory thing, to try and help people actually bring out of their own memories moments in their lives which would suit that particular whiskey.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it seemed to work very well.
The question that a brand ambassador, nearly every tasting gets asked is, what's your favorite whiskey? And my answer to that is always, depends on the moment. I'm lucky to have lots and lots of bottles around here in this house, and it really depends on the moment what whiskey I prefer at that moment.
I know, Bob, but I know that I say to people, if ever you ask a brand ambassador that question, you'll get that what you've just said is what you and what I think. Sometimes they just want to hear an answer, and I give them an answer. And I'll let you know what that answer is. One of these times I meet you.
Oh dear.
Well, I mean, I think it is very much a psychological thing as well. So if I'm pouring at a festival and I'm meeting members and they come up and they say, I don't really know what I want to have. I know I want something peated or absolutely not peated or something fruity or something floral. And you kind of look at what you have in front of you and you maybe ask them some questions about what kind of things they enjoy.
Yes.
And you read that and then you pick a whiskey, but it is very much about the experience and the psychology and the emotion of the moment.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And Willie has said the best dram is a free dram. You're not wrong there, Willie.
Well, Willie, in Scotland, we just believe that the two words in the English language, which are the best when used together, are free and dram.
And Helga's asking a bit about water. So I think the three of us kind of agreed that it got a bit smoother with water. But it may have also gotten a bit drier depending on your palate and what else you've been drinking and eating today.
With water, I was getting a bit of figs, prunes, and a jammy sauce, and with a touch of cinnamon.
If I go back to the Distillery 19, by the way, it's vanilla all over for me.
Okay.
As in
Okay.
the trifle. If you make a trifle with vanilla, so you have this vanilla infused yogurt or cream. That's what I'm getting now. It's really good.
Okay. So is that back to number one? Did you say, Bob?
No, number two. Sorry,
number two. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we should probably move on to the next round. But before we do, I'm going to sum things up with a great comment from Martin, which is, used to not like a peated whiskey. Then I stayed in Ardnamurchan next to the distillery where tap water was heavily covered by peat, had a bottle of Islay malt with me, and the rest is history.
Oh, okay.
And there is another great comment as well from Bernd. As you develop your taste throughout your life, your favorite whiskies also change. In addition, many new distilleries offer new taste experiences. It will always be exciting to drink whiskey.
Yeah.
Who was it that mentioned Ardnamurchan?
It was Martin.
Okay. Well, you might be in for a treat then, Martin.
Well, we're getting some great comments here about sharing drams and drinking together and what music you enjoy them in. So I think while we're on that note, let's jump over to Campbeltown.
Let's crack this little thing open here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound as good as popping open a bottle with a cork, but still it has got a little bit of a nice sound to it. On the topic of festivals, when I was a fair bit younger than I'm now, I started going to festivals all over the place. And saying that, people must realize that whiskey festivals aren't around for that long. I think one of the first whiskey festivals here in the Netherlands was organized in Amsterdam, which is now the Hague Whiskey Life Festival these days. And if I'm not mistaken, they are 18, 19 years old, as far as I'm aware. So that's only 20 years. And before that, the whole concept of whiskey festival wasn't there. So it's a fairly new concept, to be honest. But it's a really great concept because a whiskey festival will let you try lots and lots and lots of different stuff. But you have to be open to it as well, because what I also see sometimes with festivals, people go into the festival and they will go to the whiskeys they already know, which is a bit of a shame. You must, as far as what I would suggest to you is to go to a festival and go to a booth that you're totally unfamiliar with. As in, you don't know the people, you don't know the whiskey, and then ask them, okay, what are you serving us, and what can you actually recommend? You'd be surprised at what you discover then. Same goes for our booth. If you're a member with us, and there's flavor profiles that you normally wouldn't buy or normally wouldn't go into, when you come to our booth, Ask for those whiskies. Try them. You'll be amazed. Okay, having said that, let's go into this whiskey. So
You can see this is the 93 that we're on to. We've just had a few comments about it.
Distillery 93 indeed. So the first time I visited this one, it was not so much derelict, but it could use a little bit of TLC. And the new owners have really done it up. It's beautiful these days. Pleasant surprise. Previous oily and coastal.
Sorry.
Nice and mild. Yeah, that is with this distillery. It can be all over the place, which is fun. And oily and coastal is this flavor profile which I really like. We don't have too many bottles of them the last couple of years, but the ones that were in there in our outturns were really, really good. I think this one as well. It's not exactly peaty as in smoky peaty, but it has this maritime
salinity
over it, doesn't it? Yeah.
I always these drams or oily and coastal, I find it works really well with desserts quite often because of that sweetness, because you get that kind of savory sweet, a bit of smoke, a bit of saltiness. And it's very versatile. It is like a chameleon. It keeps changing, as someone just said.
When you say desserts, Mads, are you talking about a contrast in flavour then? Oily and coastal and desserts.
It's not always contrast, surprisingly. Sometimes it works. It sounds a bit bonkers, but like vanilla ice cream.
Yeah. Sure, okay.
And contrast can work really, really good.
Yeah.
I remember the first time very vividly when someone told me to eat some basil with white chocolate, for instance. It sounds like a weird combination, but it's really, really outrageously good.
Sure. Yeah. I just think this is wonderful. I mean, I'm getting the sea breeze and the harbour, that kind of thing.
That's exactly what it reminds me of. Yeah.
Yeah, walking past a fresh fish shop, that kind of stuff.
This is exactly what it reminds me of. And of course, there's some suggestion in there. As in the last time I was in Campbeltown, I actually was on a tall ship. So this is 5 years ago. Yep,
sure,
5 years ago. I was invited to cruise on a tall ship from Troon to Campbeltown and then to Port Ellen and then up to Jura and back to Troon, which was wonderful.
Sure.
So it was actually during the Islay Festival.
Okay.
But when we came into Campbeltown Harbour, it was, for lack of a better word, dreich. As in, there were clouds. There was a little bit of drizzle.
So in Scotland we call that dreich.
Dreich,
Bob. Dreich.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it was. And I remember when we went into the harbour, there was no wind, but the combination of the rain coming down and the smells from the harbour itself, that's what this is reminding me of, actually.
Do you know what I think this would go wonderfully with? Olives. I can just imagine this would go really well with olives. I mean, I'm getting a bit of kind of olive oil in the glass.
Yeah.
John, you've taken me to like a charcuterie platter there. A bit of cheddar, a bit of mature cheddar as well, some crackers.
Sure. Yes.
But we're getting lots of great tasting notes. This one really seems to have given everyone some kind of memory or connection. And Bingham says wet fishing nets and oilskins.
Yep. Well done, Anne.
Yeah.
Ian had a great one, a walk along a rocky shore, dried seaweed. Feels older than 8 years.
Yep. While it's raining.
Well, it's raining.
Good stuff.
Yeah. No, I think this is. I mean, it just shows you, doesn't it? I mean, we've had a couple of 18-year-olds in the tasting, and this is 8 years old. And I think this is my favourite so far.
Mm-hmm. Well, John, Anne actually has olive stuffed with garlic, and she says it's a wonderful combination.
All right, okay, Anne. Yeah, okay, great stuff.
There you go.
Great stuff.
Okay, I just put some water in. And now this drum gets all fruity on me. It really does. Some real deep citrus notes coming through. Bit of apples. Apples were in there. There was someone mentioning apples before, but I didn't get them, and now I get them quite strong, actually.
Red apple and toffee with a little bit of salt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tasha and Jens don't get the coastal aspect.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not getting it as much with this dram as I have with other oily and coastals, certainly, but I get salinity, certainly.
No, I'm definitely getting that coastal aspect, without a doubt.
Yeah. Very much so. Reminds me of getting on the ferry in Newcastle.
Get a ferry
Yeah.
Newcastle,
Yeah.
because you're coming home.
The ferry to Newcastle. Is,
To Newcastle.
To Newcastle. So yeah, that's sort of coming home as well. At least it feels like that sometimes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Tom says best one of the bunch for me, which seems to be a popular opinion. We'll wait until we get through all 5, and then I'll ask that question again, and we'll see how the Islay one hits.
Well, if it is anything like the way it hits Zwolle, I'm okay. It will be good.
I think that's the thing, especially with a tasting like this. We are going through all of Scotland's whiskey regions, so they are very different whiskies, both in flavor profile, in age and cask type. But it's really it's all about flavor at the end of the day.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, there's only one reason to drink whiskey, and that is because you enjoy it. So yeah, you might as well find a flavor profile that really fits your your preference.
See, some lots of fruit. Someone's getting FOSM, FOSM.
Yes,
He's getting same as you, Bob. The fruitiness.
Good comment from Leslie as well. My brother Mark is new to SMWS tasting, so he's been blown away by how different they all are.
That's great.
Oh, wow.
That's great, Leslie. Well,
thank you.
Brilliant, because that's exactly what we believe that we're offering our members.
Yeah.
And if you are tuning in after the fact, please jump in with your comments as you're taking these drams in.
Sure,
we will
sure.
read all of them and respond to them.
Sure.
With what I get fish and chips with cider vinegar. Wow.
yeah, absolutely.
Big moment right there.
Good stuff.
Brilliant. And it just shows you, I don't know how many different comments we've had, but what a great range of flavours and aromas from different members who are commenting,
Mm-hmm.
I said, just back to what you said, Mads, earlier, you cannot be wrong with your own tasting, though,
No, and you have to trust yourself. I mean,
Yes.
I remember a few times not being sure and someone saying, "What are you getting from this dram?" And I was like, well, I don't really want to say because it's a bit strange. And there's no wrong answer.
Well, there's a strange thing in different parts of the world. People react differently. So there's some countries in the world where people just do not want to say anything in case it's wrong, and they're making a fool of themselves in front of an audience, and then they come and talk to you afterwards about what they were experiencing. But so it's just culture and stuff, and I think that what we're getting to, certainly in these countries and in Europe, I've found just a willingness to be open and say what you're getting, because everybody knows, as we were saying, you cannot be wrong.
You cannot be wrong, and sometimes people will get what you get. Sometimes they don't, and sometimes tasting notes can be really, really thoroughly funny.
Yes, absolutely.
A couple of tastings ago, there was someone in the audience who smelled the whiskey and immediately says, "This smells like freshly ridden horse saddle." Okay.
Great tasting note, though.
I got the leathery part of that, but the horse saddle, okay.
Yeah, that's a great comment from Ian. He said, prefer the 93 without water. Fortunately, I've held some back.
Mm,
And that is the thing. Sometimes we're at a tasting, people are scared to put water in case it spoils it for them, you know.
yeah.
But if you're an SMWS member with a bottle and you try it and you put a little water in it and you don't like it, well, drink the rest of the bottle neat, you know. but I know how you feel if you've only got 1 dram and you're enjoying it neat and you're scared to maybe try it with water in case it spoils it for you. But Ian, you did the sensible thing. You've held some back.
Well, we've got a question about casks from Boris. I was always wondering, are all the SMWS casks stored in your own dunnage warehouses, or do you have casks that remain at the distilleries?
The fact is that we now have two warehouses, and most of our casks will be there. But we do a little bit of spreading around in case of dreaded explosion or fire or whatever. That's why we now have 2 different warehouses as well. But you have to remember that most of what we do, when we started 39 years ago, we were buying casks that were already matured from distilleries and bottling them for our members. More and more of what we do now is that we're supplying casks to distilleries who are filling them with new make spirit, and then we're maturing the whiskey in our warehouse. So we're creating the flavours. We're working with the spirit and different types of casks to create the flavours that you're experiencing tonight. So there's a less and less of our casks sitting at distilleries now.
Good answer.
From that point of view, we are more and more whiskey producers as well. We don't have our own stills. No, that's absolutely true. But we do buy in spirits from all kinds of distilleries all over the place, both in Scotland but also abroad, and we mature it to what we think is good for our members. So,
yeah.
Right. Well, I'm gonna take this final comment from Pete, and then I think it's over the sea to Islay. But Pete has said about this 93, after every sip, there's a peppery effect that gets stronger and sharper until I think it might be too much, but it stops growing and lasts and lasts and lasts.
Yeah, I agree. This whiskey has got a really, really long finish. It's not a heavy finish, but it really sticks.
Definitely.
Good comment. Yeah.
Great comment. And with that, somehow, I don't know where this evening has gone. We're on to the final dram of the night, and we have not 1 but 2 videos for you. So I'm going to play those now, and I'll introduce them first. First off, we have Klaus Bichnow from Sweden introducing the 53.
Hello, all my friends in the Scottish Malt Whisky Society. This is Klaus Bichnow calling from Sweden. I was asked to talk a little bit about 1 hour society bottlings for the festival on Islay. And it was the number 53 small batch, a rare release with 2,677 bottles. I'm really happy that it became so many bottles, because this is a fantastic dram, because it has stayed in both bourbon casks and sherry casks. I mean, it makes it so much more complex, and it makes it so much richer, and it has a fantastic aroma. It has sesame oils, and it has a lot of peat and smoke in it. But for me, whiskey is always a travel. It's always a memory. And for me, whiskey is personal. But this whiskey brings me back to that place when I sit on the shore and barbecue some lobsters and things like that. And when you barbecue them a little bit too much, so they get a little bit burnt, that's what I get out of this. And it's it's mouth-filling. It has a lot of nice smoke in it, and it really has a saltiness coming in the background. So if you get the chance to try this 53, don't miss it out. For me, it's one of the best 53s I tried from the society. So I say to you, Flancheva, and good job to create this rare release in the behalf of the society. Till next time, Stay safe, have a fun week, and enjoy all the festivals. Bye.
Hey, John, Bob, and Madge. Jenny here from the US chapter to pop on really quick to raise a glass in honor of festival season. And so throughout the month of May, we have had such an incredible time celebrating all of the whiskey regions throughout Scotland, and especially these rare releases that we get to share with members all around the globe. And so I wanted to pop on really quick to talk a little bit about one of those releases. This is the rare release from Distillery 53, Throw the Cork Away. And I'm such a fangirl of this distillery. And so I was very excited to see this coming down the line, especially combining that robust smokiness of the distillery with that luscious Oloroso sherry. And so once I got my nose into the glass, I was actually quite surprised because I got this lovely little peanut butter note, which is really, really surprising because I've never found that on this particular distillery before. And so the nose for me just is like eating a tub of peanut butter just straight from the tub in a mechanics shop. And that mechanics shop just happens to be on the coast somewhere, because with that peanut and that like oil and grit and all of those, you know, aromas that you get in a mechanic shop is this lovely just blanket of that briny ocean air. And it's just a beautiful combination on the nose. And so I'm going to give it a quick taste and see if I find it on the palate. The palate on this is absolutely exquisite. The mouthfeel on this is so luscious and silken and velvety. And those flavors just totally get into every nook and cranny of your palate. I'm not so much finding that peanut butter or that peanut note that I was getting on the nose, but you do get that lovely nutty Oloroso sherry, and you get just that beautiful smoke and salt and everything that you love about this distillery and Islay Whiskies is all wrapped up in this lovely little dram. And so thank you for allowing me to come on and say hi and share a few notes on this rare release from Distillery 53. And I will raise this glass to you all and all of our members around the world in honor of festival season. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Cheers, Klaus, and cheers, Jenna from the USA, who did that last video for us.
Great stuff.
Great stuff.
I think that this is a wonderful 53. I mean, I'm getting the usual things, that peat burning on a barbecue and an engine room, you know, on a tugboat, and I'm even getting kind of almost like I don't know how to describe it, muddy boots in a forest, you know, that kind of thing. I have to say, I'm slightly surprised in that I'm not getting what I would expect from an Oloroso cask maturation, you know. So I'm not getting the same as that one a couple of drams ago, you know. But I think it's a superb Kalila though. Sorry, I mentioned the name there. Sorry. It's a superb 53. Yeah.
It's a superb 53, and it's not, you know, sometimes 53s can be really clean, which is a style I really like, and this one is more briny and more, perhaps more malty than, and for me it really smells like peated malt, and you don't usually get that with 53s, I think, but it's.
I guess now. Yeah, I think, Bob, now for me, there's a slight fruitiness coming through, which I think would probably contradict what I've just said about I think it needs a bit of time. I think. But it's like fruitiness to come through, and what I'm getting a little bit is kind of overripe apples, you know?
Yeah. Mm. And it does have what I most of the time get with 53s is salmiak on the taste.
Mm.
Yeah.
Almost, and I suspect when we get to it that this will take water very nicely.
Sure. Yeah. We've got 58.4%, and it's only 8 years old.
Oh yeah, best soap. Oh my word.
Yeah.
Or is it soup? Tobacco leaves, powerful smoke. Ah, that's best. Yeah, I do agree, Bernd.
I mean, I always think what's fascinating about this distillery is that we're using the same peated malt specification as another distillery on the south coast of Islay, and because of the process and the way they make the whiskey, the spirits are completely different, you know. And I always think it's amazingly fascinating that every single distillery in Scotland has got a different type of new make spirit, and they can't replicate that at another distillery, even if it's across the road. It's just fascinating, the weird alchemy of a specific location, you know.
Very true.
Definitely. And I mean, the comments are just flying in on this one, all kinds of things. But there's actually a good question that came in just before we started the videos. Well, two questions actually. So you guys can pick which one you want to answer, but we'll answer both. So first of all, one from Martin. In your opinion, does the location of the warehouse where the whiskey ages in the cask make any difference to the taste profile?
Martin, what a fantastic question, because that has been the subject of discussion in Scotch whisky for 200 years, you know. And you hear the stories about this cask was matured by the sea, and you know, in a warehouse by the sea and all that. And Diageo will tell you that it doesn't matter a fig, you know, where the cask is matured. And in fact, if you take Islay as an example, you couldn't possibly mature all Islay whiskey on Islay because there's too much of it. It has to be tankered off the island and matured in the Central Belt. So my answer to that really would be no.
Okay.
I don't think it makes a difference.
Well, we've got another warehouse question from Anne Bingham actually, which I hadn't spotted. So there's going to be a third question after this one. Are the warehouses both dunnage, or are we buying into the pelletizing racking equipment? I don't know. John, do you or Bob? Either one of you.
Well, if you look at the new warehouse that we are actually getting into production in right now at this moment, it will be a racked warehouse. The reason why we're doing that is because of convenience, to be honest. Within that warehouse, most of the casks that are being held there will be the casks that are either about to be bottled, or are the casks that we want to keep more or less the casks that we want to keep track of really closely. And in a dunnage warehouse, and even more so in a pelletized warehouse, if you want to keep track of casks, it can be really hard. Can you imagine if you want to keep track of a cask that is in a pelletized warehouse and it's right at the back of the stack? You have to break down all these stacks before you get to that's horrible. So in that sense, a racked warehouse gives you ready access to every cask you want to keep track of, and it's very convenient. I've been told, and I don't know if John can add something to that, but I've been told that there isn't much of a difference between racked and dunnage warehouses. Pelletized, well, as far as I'm concerned, that remains to be seen. As in, pelletized warehouses are a relatively new phenomenon. They haven't been around for that long. Whether that stacking up casks very close together will have an effect, which you can actually notice at the end, because that's what is important as well. I wouldn't be able to comment on that, to be honest. It's not something I know. But what the warehouses we have are both, as far as I know, racked warehouses.
Yeah. You and I have visited both of these warehouses, Bob, although when we visited the second one recently, there wasn't anything there yet because it's just a new acquisition, really, and we're going to put casks in there. I think it's everything you said, Bob, absolutely spot on. I think people can get a kind of romantic notion about dunnage warehouses, and I just think that it's what happens in the cask that's important. I don't think it's important how it's stacked. And I can tell you something. If there is a difference, then we'll be the ones who will find out.
Yeah, true. And remember, it's things like climate is more important. If you look at a distillery like Paul John, who are actually in Goa, near the equator, it's very warm, very humid over there. They've got angel shares of 10-15% sometimes. That makes a very, very, very big difference to how you store casks. And you won't find that in Scotland, to be honest.
That's absolutely right, Bob. When you look at our 134.1 and 134.2, it was exactly the same type of cask from the same location, but they were completely different. Same age, and they were completely different. And one was stored underground, one was stored above ground. So the climate there, the conditions of the temperature, etc., in the warehouse or where it was stored made the difference. Yeah. And I guess Martin probably thinks, well, isn't that the case if you store it on the question you answered before? Isn't that different then if you store it in a warehouse by the sea compared to a warehouse in central Scotland? Well, you know what the amazing thing about Scotch whisky is that there's so much that science can't explain. They're investigating all of the time. The Scotch Whisky Research Institute are on a constant journey to try and find out all of the answers. And I was talking to a major big name distiller just a couple of years ago, and I said he was talking to us about what they now know about wood maturation compared to a generation ago. And I said, it sounds as if you know all the answers now. And he said, John, we don't even know 50% of the answers. Science just cannot explain it. So when you ever ask a question like that of people who work in whiskey, it might sound as if we're talking, we talk on and on without giving you an answer. But that's partially the reason for it. And our man in SMWS, Andrew Forrester, who's our spirits educator, who's a scientist himself, and with the Scotch Whisky Research Institute, he's always very honest. I can't tell you the answer to that. Science has not yet discovered why that happens.
Well, from one mystery to another, because the final question we've had is who gives such cool names to whiskey? So this one's a little bit easier to answer, I think, although there's still an air of mystery about it. So I don't know.
Well, Miroslav, can you imagine you've got, say, 8 people around a table giving tasting notes and having to approve the whiskey. They have to vote to agree that this whiskey will be bottled for members. And not all whiskey passes. Some whiskies gets rejected. So all of these members say all of these tasting panel members give what they are getting in tasting notes to the chairman on the day. And the chairman has to take that away and write the tasting note that you read, which will be a summary of all of that, and give it a name. Now, when he's giving it a name, we're trying to be give an indication of the taste that you'll get in the glass from the actual tasting note. But sometimes the chairman are having a bit of fun as well. Okay, so you'll get a little tasting note that's amusing or a play on words, but it's because we're not trying to be too serious about this. It's supposed to be fun, our whiskey, and that's where the chairman comes into it. Sometimes we can tell by the name of it who was the chairman on the day, because we know what they're like and what their tendencies are in terms of the sort of words that they want to use. But no, that's where it comes from. It comes from the chairman of the tasting panel.
And sometimes it comes from members.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, next week we'll be having a tasting panel experience at the Malt Vault in Utrecht. There's still tickets available for people from Benelux, and we'll be naming next year's Benelux exclusive, or we'll invent a name there, and then which will be the Dutch contending name, actually. So there will be a Belgian one, there will be a Dutch one, and we'll decide then which one is going to be given to that whiskey. So
absolutely,
sounds like a great event. I wish it could come. But we're still getting great tasting notes from this dram. Have either of you added water? I'm conscious of time, but I don't want to miss out on adding water.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I did add water, and I thought a fruitiness came through
Yeah,
with the
Mm.
water
I
that
agree.
wasn't there before. You know.
Hmm. Oh, Gerben's going to be at your event, Bob.
Great stuff, Gerwin. Love to see you there.
Martin's asked, any plans for more virtual tastings? So yes, there are plans for more virtual tastings. So keep your eyes peeled. We'll talk about them on social media, but also they'll be in all the emails. So next one will be, you'll hear about it first there.
And if you put up a Nadja's comment about how sometimes there's contradictory things, yeah, I think I know what you mean, Nadja, because sometimes maybe the fun element is that it's difficult to establish, in terms of what the actual flavour note is going to be. But I think the most important part of it is the tasting note, because that gets really into the flavour and the aromas, whereas the actual name of the thing, although it might be sort of indicative of the tasting, it's not always completely that way.
Yeah, and the virtue of our tasting notes as well is that it's been done by a panel, so it's not the opinion of one person. It's always a couple of people doing that. As you experienced tonight, there's so many different ways people pick up different smells and translate it into tasting notes. So it's a really good thing that is always a couple of people doing that.
And with that in mind, it would be a really good time to chat about what everyone's favorite drams are. So, Bob, I'm going to go to you first because you're smiling.
Yeah, sorry. Without a doubt, Distillery 36. Yeah, for me, it reminds me of being able to go to Speyside Festival this year again. Went there, it was great fun. Meeting old friends again for the first time in 2 years, and being able to meet a couple of new people as well. So for me, Distillery 36.
John, what about you?
For me, no doubt about it, 93. That's
93.
I just thought that was wonderful. That's the sort of whiskey I could sit there and drink too much of some evenings.
Well, I think for me, and I'm surprising myself here, it was actually it was Distillery 5, the lowland whiskey.
Okay.
I've tried, yeah, I don't know, there was something about it. It really changed with water, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I can see that, we've had lots of folks saying 93, 53, actually all of them. So yeah, amazing. There's a tiny bit of housekeeping to do before we wrap up for the night. So if you are, like John, still on Islay tomorrow on Wednesday, the 1st of June, we have a final fling at our pop-up session at Islay House. So we'll be there between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. And you can sample the rare releases, and you might even be able to buy a couple of bottles. So definitely pop around if you're on Islay. Another thing to mention is that Outturn is this Thursday. So it is Thursday instead of Friday, Thursday, the 2nd of June, 9 a.m. UK time. There'll be more on that and you'll get the Outturn booklets to look at very, very shortly. But just make a note that it's Thursday instead of Friday. Finally, I want to say thank you to Bob and John, Matt from Australia, Matthias from Germany, Freddie from China, Klaus from Sweden, Jenna from the US, and also to the UK team who have done some behind the scenes work to help get this tasting off the ground. So big thanks to Tom, Helen B, Claire, Karina, Richard. You guys have helped make all of this happen. So thank you very much. Ich möchte mich auch ganz herzlich bedanken an alle deutschen Mitglieder, die heute Abend dabei waren. Prost. And Bob, I think you had a wee thank you as well.
Ja, dames en heren, Nederlanders en Belgen. Dank jullie wel voor jullie aanwezigheid vanavond. En ook proost vanuit Lent bij Nijmegen. En ik hoop jullie heel snel weer te zien op festivals vlakbij. Bijvoorbeeld 11 juni in Leiden. Tot ziens.
And it's over to you, John.
Folks, I'm on Islay. I'm in a house with SMWS colleagues, and we're just above Bruichladdich Distillery. And on Sunday was Bruichladdich Open Day, and we were walked 5 minutes down the road to the distillery. 2 years ago, we lost Duncan McGilvray, who was a legend at Bruichladdich. He'd been there for 40 or 50 years. When they reopened in 1981, Duncan was the man who Jim McCheyne talks about coming out of the mist with his day-glow jacket on to reopen the distillery, bring new people in and get the whole thing going again. Because of when he died, he never really had the opportunity for whiskey people around the world to celebrate his life. On Sunday, there were photographs of him all over the place, and I would just like to actually raise a glass to two men from Bruichladdich tonight. One is Duncan, and I will say, and I'm going to quote from a Robert Burns' poem, where he was making a tribute to someone he knew who died. And the line I would like to say, if there is another world, he lives in bliss. If there is none, he made the best of this. And that's a toast to Duncan McGilvray, who really made Bruichladdich what it is today. My second toast is to a man who's still with us, I'm happy to say, Jim McCheyne, who most of you will know of and his life, and he's now retired, and he lives down in the house next to Bruichladdich still, even though he's retired. Jim McCheyne has been the man who inspired people all around the world to enjoy whiskey first and Islay whiskey next. One of his great legacies, he believes, is that he and Bruichladdich created jobs for so many people on the island. Jim McCheyne calls whiskey the blood of Scotland, and that's the toast I would like to raise to you now. All of the whiskies that we've had tonight have been Scotch. To the blood of Scotland, Slangevar.